Guys, welcome to Real Classic Film Reviews and welcome to a classic movie review of 1955's The Night of the Hunter, a haunting American Gothic masterpiece starring Robert Mitchum, Shelley Winters and Lillian Gish. Now, this was legendary actor Charles Laughton's singular directorial effort, and it explores the dark underside of religious fanaticism, childhood innocence and that good old-fashioned yet ageless struggle between good and evil. Now, this was infamously underappreciated during its original release, but has since gained recognition as one of the most distinctive and quite daring films of the 20th century. With a mind-boggling performance from Mitchum, this is an eerie blend of fairy tale, Southern Gothic and psychological horror, a genuine masterwork. So let's take a look.
Didn't you hear me, boy?
John, when your dad says come, you should mind him.
He ain't my dad.
No, and he ain't no preacher neither.
So, The Night of the Hunter, based on Davis Grubb's 1953 novel of the same name, is quite a difficult movie to categorise. This thing begins as a psychological serial killer thriller / twisted family drama, but literally morphs before your eyes into a childhood road movie with dark fairy tale vibes before settling on a kind of home invasion horror movie in its final act. It's quite something. Now, of course, at the film centre is a terrifying and pretty unforgettable performance by Robert Mitchum as Harry Powell, a self-proclaimed preacher who travels small towns under the guise of spiritual salvation, leaving a trail of murdered widows in his wake. With his knuckles famously tattooed with love and hate, Mitchum's Powell is both charismatic and monstrous, a charming predator whose gospel speak conceals his intentions from the naive fold around him. Now, this is one of the performances in 50s cinema. Iconic stuff, to be sure, and that's from an actor who had an absolutely stellar run throughout the 1940s and 1950s.
Not that you mind the killings. Your book is full of killings. But there are things you do hate, Lord. Perfume-smelling things, lacy things, things with curly hair.
Now, this story unfolds in Depression-era West Virginia and follows two children, John and Pearl Harper, played remarkably really by Billy Chapin and Sally Jane Bruce. The two are left in the care of their mother, Willa, played by Shelley Winters, after their father is executed for stealing and hiding $10,000. Mitchum's character, a cellmate of the father in prison, learns of the money's existence and, upon release, tracks down the family, obviously under the pretense of religious duty. He quickly charms the gullible townspeople and seduces Willa into marriage, but of course his true goal is to extract the location of the stolen money from those pesky kids. Now, part of the genius of the movie is that said $10,000 is stuffed into young Pearl's dolly, which goes everywhere with her and becomes a kind of Hitchcock-type McGuffin, with Mitchum's villainous preacher never too far away from it at all times. Now, there's a fantastic scene here when Pearl, bless her, begins cutting the money up into the shapes of people whilst playing, and subtle but genius moment when the wind blows some of them past the feet of Mitchum without him even noticing. Brilliant. Now, one of the most famous aspects of The Night of the Hunter is how director Charles Laughton was heavily influenced by German expressionism. Stark lighting, exaggerated shadows and surreal angular set designs all create dreamlike and quite nightmarish visuals. This will sound super cheesy, but there really are sequences in this film that feel more like paintings than moving images. And just check out this moment when Shelley Winters' Willa lies in bed, arms folded in a pose of submission as Powell preaches in silhouette against a massive cross-shaped window. And I was going to talk about this a little later in the video, but I might as well mention it now, and that's the movie's infamous underwater shot of Willa's corpse, her hair waving like seaweed in the current, tethered to her car at the bottom of the river, and Laughton just hangs on that shot for an almost uncomfortable amount of time. Amazing stuff, still 70 years later. So, Night of the Hunter's main themes, I think, are innocence besieged by corruption, Powell's pursuit of the children down the river and across a landscape of Depression-era American decay feels like a trip into a fairy tale underworld. The children flee down the Ohio River in a stolen skiff in what becomes one of the most bizarrely beautiful sequences in American cinema. The river journey is mostly silent, but for the frogs croaking, the owls hooting, and young Pearl's haunting lullabies. It's such an odd sequence, the children drifting through a ghostly wilderness, away from society and into nature, with Mitchum's Powell always nearby. Now, eventually the children will find sanctuary with Rachel Cooper, played by silent film legend Lillian Gish. Now, Gish is an actress lost to time, unfortunately, a silent film megastar with 121 acting credits to her name, beginning in 1912. Anyway, here she plays a strong-willed, Bible-quoting woman who protects orphans. Hers is perhaps the film's most underappreciated performance. It's the counterpoint to Powell's fanaticism. Powell using religion as a weapon of control, but she uses it for compassion and strength. The film's final act, when Powell finally comes for the children, is one of the most powerful sequences. Her sitting on her porch with a shotgun in her lap, dressed in white, and joining in the singing of a hymn, with Powell, of course, dressed in black, the two locked in a spiritual standoff. It's a bit on the nose in terms of religious allegory, but it's spine-tingling nonetheless.
Leaning on Jesus, leaning on the everlasting arms.
So, like I mentioned earlier, The Night of the Hunter is not an easy film to categorise. It's part noir, part fable, part horror. It deals with complex themes, religious hypocrisy and fanaticism, and mental health. And it has a visual style rarely seen in American cinema, certainly of that era. Its use of silence, music, and the imagery of the natural world hiding a dark undercurrent certainly informed later directors like David Lynch and Terrence Malick. Now, it's a massive shame that for all of its innovation and artistry, it was a commercial failure upon its release in 1955, bewildering audiences and critics alike. I think there's no question that The Night of the Hunter was simply ahead of its time. Its director, Charles Laughton, so devastated by the film's failure, never directed again. Laughton, of course, an outstanding actor with credits including Ruggles of Red Gap, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Jamaica Inn, could have also been a force in the director's chair, but it wasn't to be. Now, of course, such is the way that today The Night of the Hunter is rightly hailed as a masterpiece. Its influence can be seen in countless films and directors, from Cape Fear to There Will Be Blood, from Martin Scorsese to the Coen brothers. Now, although the Great Depression weighs heavily across the movie, it's still got a timelessness. It's got all of those good old battles within its 90-minute runtime. Innocence versus corruption, of truth against deception, light against darkness. Now, it's certainly one of the most haunting and visually amazing American films ever made, a storybook nightmare at times. In a decade that brought us Hitchcock's Vertigo, Ozu's Tokyo Story, Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, and John Ford's The Searchers, a British actor born in the seaside town of Scarborough, which is just about an hour away from where I live right now, stopped by to make possibly the greatest and most nightmarish film noir fairy tale of any decade. Go check it out.